the cruncher for still and running water. In the usual way, set the thread on close to the eye and trap it in, taking touching turns down the hook shank, putting about 15 to 20 and then trimming off the waist end. Now we'll take some silver wire for the rib and tuck it in underneath the shank of the hook at the tying in point. Bind down along the underside of the hook shank and just push it into place with your thumbnail if it twists out of position. As you reach the point of the hook, make sure that it doesn't throw your turns out, as it has done just there. Then we straighten that up. And mind you don't catch the thread. Again, just make sure that the wire is laying straight along the underside of the hook shank. A couple of open turns back and then square off. And now from a large red game or ginger hackle, select 4 or 5 fibres and twitch them off. Lay them alongside the hook there to check for length, roughly a hook length long, and catch them in on top with touching turns as you work back towards the bend. Make sure they're set on top. On this pheasant tail, the left hand fibres as you look at it are longer than the ones on the right, and it's these that you need for a body. Now select 4 fibres there, pull them out at right angles before you twitch them off. This way you line up the tips. Lay them on top of the hook and catch in much the same way, and again keeping both the fibres of the pheasant tail and the fibres for the tail on top of the hook and the silver underneath so that you don't pull that out of place. Bind back to the bend. Snip off the waist just at the front there, and now take the thread in touching turns forward along the body, building a smooth underbody to the thorax area. Just move this wire out of the way and take the pheasant tail herl and wind it in touching turns up the body again to the thorax area. Even turns, as you can see. And now catch in with a couple of turns with your left hand using the bobbin, and then transfer to the right hand again to make 4 or 5 more turns just to make a firm tie in. Snip off the waist and now wind the rib. I'm winding this in the opposite direction, so coming over the top from the far side. 4 turns there, and then catch in again with a left hand turn and another left hand turn and another one, and now twitch off the wire. Don't cut it, it slipped a bit there we go, and just worry it till it clips off. Now take some peacock herl, a couple of strands is plenty. This is from a bunch of packeted herl. Snip off the tips because they're quite fragile right at the very tips there, and we'll be tying it in at that point there. Offer it up underneath again and catch in with a turn of thread. Slide back slightly there just to get them into position and bind forwards. Now take them and turn forwards in touching turns. There we are. 4 turns, catch in again with a left-handed drop turn and another with the right hand. snip off. And just make some turns to the eye and come back again just to tidy things up. Now take a hen hackle from the Greenwell cape and pluck out, gently holding the tip, stroke the fibres the wrong way, if you like, down to open them up, because we're going to tie this by the tip. Snip off most of that tip, make it easier to tie in. Got one spare fibre there, snip that off. That's what we're going to tie in, and we offer it up and catch in with a turn of thread there and another forwards again, as you can see, and then we'll come back again almost to the tie-in point with 3 or 4 good turns. Now attach the hackle pliers and carefully, because they're quite fragile, take a turn coming round underneath behind the thread, a stroke of the fibres, come up round again behind the thread, another stroke of the fibres just to lay them back a little, give yourself room to work, and again a pull, and now we'll bring the thread up with the left hand, drop turn there, and another, that'll hold it in place, and another 3 turns, and the weight of the bobbin plenty good enough. Now we'll snip off the waist hackle like so. Be careful not to cut all the fibre, use the very tips of the scissors. Now stroke back and hold there, just neaten up the head with 4 or 5 turns and a whip finish. I use a hand whip, you can use a whip tool, you can use a half-hitch tool, whichever you like, whichever is your favourite method. And pick up the loop with your dubbing needle to keep the pressure on and pull through to tighten it. There's your whip finish. Using open scissors, just nick the thread off and your fly is basically finished. There's one spare fibre there and I can see another one there. Just pull the hackle back a little out of the way, a little bit of a tilt, and we can get the scissors in there. There we go. Take that one off as well. That's your fly basically finished. Put a spot of varnish on the whip there and do another one a bit later on when it's fully dried. A couple of spots. There's your completed cruncher. I use it both on rivers and still waters, and that's what it represents. That's an olive nymph with minor changes to the hackle and the rib materials. You can see from these 3 examples just how quickly you can vary the dressing